All right, well, we'll get started. Welcome. Glad to have you here. We're excited about starting off a new campaign. Um, the players have worked tremendously hard in the off season to get prepared for fall camp, which we're into now and the upcoming season. So really proud of what they've accomplished with Dak as our strength coach and his crew, spending all that time with him and having them work as hard as they have. I think it's a group of players that not only have a great work ethic, but there's a lot of leadership on this football team. And that's one thing that we've tried to do is to develop leadership in our program so that as leaders go, there's more leaders coming in and taking their place. And I think the leadership with this group will be especially strong. We've had a few changes. Obviously, Ron Collins is now our defensive coordinator, and Ron is in his ninth year as a coach here. So certainly a lot of stability. He's been a coordinator at different schools, Colorado, Boise State, tremendous experience. So we're fortunate that when Jimmy left to be able to move up a guy like Ron to take over the duties of defensive coordinator. Nate Faunus, a grad assistant, as you know, then became the linebacker coach as Ron moved to safeties coach. Felt very, very comfortable in moving Nate up as a grad assistant. He has some experience as a full-time coach in a lower level school, but had the full backing of really everybody on our staff in terms of taking that position. So we were that confident in him being able to step right into that role and give us what we need. Alan Rudolph will be with us for his first season with us. Excited about that. He has done a great job leading up to this point from the time that he stepped on our campus in terms of working with our offensive line. I think he's a demanding coach, but he does it in the right way. I think his players really have taken to him. So we've been fortunate then that when we do have a guy leave, that we're able to really replace the person that is left with quality coaches and really good people. And I think that's what has enabled this program to continue to win football games and have seasons that have been certainly respectable seasons. You don't see the really up and down that you see in some programs because of the fact that we've been able to hire at the level of a coach that we've been able to do. And obviously the continuity of all those guys that have been with us for a lot of years has been great and has been what has also helped our football program sustain itself the way it has. We've I'm going to do things a little differently on this one. I'm not going to continue to go on and on and on. I will take questions if you have anything specific of me, but we're going to have Tim Albin address the offense and Ron address the defense, and Brian Haynes address special teams. So you can get to know those guys a little bit better and can certainly drill them with questions that you may have. We have 5 captains. Nathan Rourke, two-time captain. Javon Hagan will be a 3-time captain, and then a 1-time captain with Austin Pleasance, Will Evans, Cam Oden. All 5 of those guys are really, really good football players, and all 5 of them are really, really great teammates. And they're driving hard for a great year, not only for themselves but for their teammates, and so we'll get tremendous leadership from that group. We have 23 guys who have played significant time that are returning on our football team. 8 returning on defense and 5 returning on offense. So the fact that you have 23 guys that have played significantly is good. Teams look at returning starters in different ways, so I look at really, rather than returning starters, more along the lines of returning athletes that you have that have played significant time. So we're fairly good there. I will take any questions that you may have. Jason.
Frank, for the last 3 years, your team has, at different points throughout the season, looked like the best in the conference, and for whatever reason, didn't finish it off the way you wanted to. Have you identified ways that you can make sure you're able to finish it off, or if you had that answer, you would have done it?
Well, obviously, if we had the answer, maybe things would have been a little bit different. But as I see it, you've got to have really good coaching. You got to have good athletes. We got that. You got to have a little bit of luck in the MAC conference, because as you go through the conference games, some of those you're playing in the middle of the week. You're coming off sometimes a 5-day rest. The opposing team may be coming off a 6 or 7-day rest. Everybody has those problems as you go through the MAC. Coming off a 5-day rest, you may have to you may have traveled on the game prior to the one coming up, and you may have to travel to the game coming up. So that just is draining on your football team. So it's tough in the MAC to get your team prepared in a manner that they're going to be on top of their game every single game because of those circumstances. But that's what coaching all about, and that's what we got to do. I think as I look at it, I think we were the strongest team in the MAC at the end of the year. And there was a play or two that kept us out of the MAC championship game, and we'd like to think that if we'd gotten in the MAC championship game last year the way we were playing at the end of the year, that we'd have had a good shot at it. So some of it's timing, some of it's a little bit of luck, some of it's having really, really good athletes, some of it's having really, really good coaches. We've got those two things, and we're hoping to get done what we want to get done this year.
You mentioned a little bit of luck, and scheduling kind of plays into that. How do you feel about that schedule this year? At first glance, it seems to avoid some of those short windows from game to game and back-to-back road games and things like that until the end.
I think some years the scheduling hits you a little harder than others. I think this is a year where it has not hit us real hard. I think it's certainly a very, very manageable schedule. So, you look at our first 8 games, we're playing them on a Saturday, which is not normally the case.
Coach, you get to renew a pretty great rivalry with Marshall this year. They're going to be a good team this season. Can you talk about renewing that rivalry and the atmosphere in Huntington when you guys go down there, what it's like?
Yeah, it's been a great rivalry over the years. It's been a hard-fought football game every time. Generally, they're really close football games. They're games with a lot of really good athletes on the field. Their coaching staff has done a good job over the years recruiting and putting really top-notch teams on the field. So it should be a great game. The atmosphere down there is really good. They put people in the stands. It's not a very long drive. We have the ability to get our fans down there too. So that all makes for a great rivalry.
Talk about the up-and-coming presence of the younger guys around Rourke. How do you feel them working in so far, and how do you see them growing as the season moves on?
Well, we've got some positions where we're going to have to really work at developing depth. An example of that would be in the offensive line. That's not unusual for a group of 5 school. Your depth is sometimes what gets you if you're not careful in your recruiting process. So Generally speaking, I really like our football team. I really like the depth at a lot of positions, but there are some that we're going to have to bring some young guys along, as you're mentioning, and that's in the offensive line, certainly. It's also in the defensive interior line. I think at the rush end spots, we'll have really, really excellent depth. And that'll be a special unit, I think, for us. I look at our secondary. We have a lot of guys returning that have had playing time and really quality players, so that should be a strong emphasis for us. Inside on the defensive lines, I just mentioned, that's going to take some time. It's going to take a little work to get the backup players ready to play at the level that we want them to play at. So, we're pretty careful on how we practice, trying to make sure that we're keeping our guys as healthy as possible. Things can happen as you practice. Things can happen in games where that chips into your depth, and so we'll see how it plays out. But I like our football team, and I like the ability of the young guys to come along and be a big help to what we're all about this year.
How was Nathan Warwick done compared to previous seasons in terms of coming in and being the guy this year? He's the most experienced guy in the quarterback room. Just how do you compare to his last two off seasons? How you feel about where he is mentally heading into this season?
Well, he's a tremendous athlete and a well-prepared athlete. I mean, from day one, he was a different guy in that regard. You did not have to drive him to prepare. I mean, he was always in the film room, spending his own time getting ready. I think Coach Isfording has done a great job with him and our other quarterbacks. But I think Coach would agree that Nathan had the things that you look for in a coach when he showed up here on campus, and we're just trying to have his skill and his mindset just finely tuned. He's a great leader and a great example of what a young man in college football should be all about.
Your 2019 signing class appears to be mostly here in fall camp. Do you have an update on guys who aren't here or haven't been listed on the official roster yet?
Yeah. Gates should be ready to go in a few days. He's here on campus. Has not played a role in anything that we've done athletically to this point. Denzel should be we feel ready to go in hopefully a very short period of time. I think I'm allowed to mention these guys' names, so they did sign a letter with us, so we're, I think, safe there. So they're one's joining, and one we hope will be joining very, very shortly.
I think Walter Wilbon has been watching from the bleachers the last year. Is that an injury?
Injury.
Mm-hmm. Do you expect him to be a part of camp, or?
Yeah, he'll eventually be able to start working his way into the running back corps.
You got an exciting non-conference game. Just building on the Marshall and the Huntington, you're also traveling to Heinz Field to play an ACC opponent in Pitt. I know you always like to play and try to, and oftentimes beat those big schools. What's it like having that opportunity? Yeah,
we like to play and beat everybody, but certainly big schools is a little bit of a treat. If you look at our schedule, 3 of the 4 non-conference schools are schools that played in bowl games last year, and I think one of them played for their conference championship, and so it's a challenging non-conference schedule. But our guys they're looking forward to it. Going to Pitt is will be an exciting time for us. Excuse me, and having Lafayette here will be good. There'll be a return trip at some point, and that's a long trip, obviously. And Rhode Island, their program is improving, so they'll show up. expecting to really play well and expecting to win win the game. So it's going to be a non-conference schedule that we're going to have to be ready to play every game and be ready for each kickoff. So. Excuse me.
You've made it through your first week, almost full week of fall camp. Have injuries reared their head in terms of returners on your rosters? Anyone out right now that we need to go back as soon as possible, or anything along those lines?
There are a few guys that are out. Some of that is extended from summer conditioning and some surgeries in the off season. We've had a couple injuries that are keeping guys out for a period of time, but those should not be really extensive injuries. We'll see on one of our players who's got a little bit of a wrist injury that hopefully will not be very significant, and we'll be able to get him back somewhat soon.
The player I was Julian Ross, obviously thought was going to be a cut.
Julian Ross has been out for some time. Yeah, we expect that he'll get back maybe middle to a little later in fall camp, but he'll be back in time to be prepared to play the season.
What do you think about your running back room this year? It's a whole new crew. Julian is obviously the guy that's contributed before. But what about the newcomers, or especially the newcomers, and then guys like O'Shawn?
Yeah, O'Shawn Allison, has had a good spring leading up to this fall camp. Jake Netherton has been hampered with a leg injury that he should be coming off of that very, very soon. We mentioned Walter. We have about 5 running backs really that are, I think, competing for the job in order to take over for AJ and Malik. And that's not a small task. Those guys were really very productive for us throughout the course of their career here. So they're not easy guys to replace. But I do like the guys in our system, and I think we have a chance. It's a nice combination of some guys with some real speed, some guys with some real power. Generally speaking, they're, for the most part, able to catch the ball. They're tough kids. They'll pass pro. So we think we can have the complete back. Thank you.
Coach, do you think that with obviously running back, do you think that will change a little bit about how much you lean on Nathan early on in the season, with maybe not so lack of experience at running back, but just because, like you said, you are replacing AJ and Malik?
Yeah, no, we're expecting those running backs to be ready to go right from the start and play great football for us. So we're not going to try to dance around that at all. We run the football. We come off of a play action passes. Nathan and our other quarterbacks are able to throw the ball really well. I really like our receivers, and so we want to be a complete football team, and we want to kind of display that right from the start.
Just looking at your quarterback room, specifically the younger guys, so far through this fall camp, what's impressed you about Curtis Rourke and Joe Mishler?
Curtis is very much like Nathan, a real student of the game, probably a little bit bigger, maybe does not have quite the speed and quickness at this point in time in his career that his brother has, but he's got good speed and quickness. He's got a great throwing arm. He's got great touch on the ball. I think he can develop into a special thrower. Joe is got great passing ability also. Does not have quite the height that maybe Curtis has. But, he's able to do an awful lot. Very smart. His dad's a head coach in high school ball and has prepared his son really very, very well. He's very much like Nathan and Curtis coming in. They've been around it a long time, and they were already skilled and and developmentally in that position. And when we just kind of have to fine-tune those guys a little bit. So we feel good about both those guys. And, you know, as you go through a season, you find times to maybe play those guys, give them a little bit of experience. I think the 4-game rule that's in effect now is really helping athletes, really helping coaches and programs out. So health-wise, it's a great thing for programs and kids, and so that is huge in terms of trying to help guys get a little bit of playing time and getting them ready for backup without just automatically taking them out of a redshirt year.